Today, as we celebrate the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we remember him through the Diversity Leadership Awards that President Zimmer will present in just a moment. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce the 13th President of the University of Chicago, Dr. Robert Zimmer.
Thanks very much, Bill. It's a great pleasure to add my welcome to that of Bill's. This is a very important annual event. There are really two components of this. One, of course, is the reason that we are gathered here at this particular moment for the Diversity Leadership Awards. And more generally, this is part of university celebration of the life and work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Before we begin with the awarding of the Diversity Leadership Awards, I do want to acknowledge a few people here, long-standing friends of the community. State Representative Barbara Flynn Curry, who is, here she is. Alderman Leslie Hairston is, where is Leslie? Ah, there she is, okay. I also want to introduce two people who have not been elected to public office. First, Dr. Byron Brazier, who of course many of you know is the head of the Apostolic Church of God. Where is, there he is.
I know, I don't think he's on the list.
Okay, and we appreciate the extraordinary work that Dr. Brazier is doing in Woodlawn in many ways. Of course, as we all know, carrying on some of the work of his father, who we all miss. I want to introduce one other person who's a new member of our community, who is Derek Douglas, who's Derek, as I think many of you know, is the university's new Vice President for Civic Engagement. He comes to us from the White House, having been a special assistant to President Obama for Urban Affairs and directing the Domestic Policy Council's urban policy agenda. And before that, he also served in New York State Governor's Office, as well as in the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund. Now, I've just been informed that we have one other elected official who I missed, didn't realize that she was here. This is State Representative Kimberly Dubuclet. Where is, there you are. So let me just say a few words about the context for these awards. From the inception of the university, a foundation of the university is that it was really built on inclusion and acceptance. And of course, inclusion and acceptance in the United States itself had a very complex history, as we all know, so that even places that argued about inclusion and acceptance had to work at living up to those ideals. And of course, that's been the case for the University of Chicago as well as for every other institution. But it has been a deep foundation of the university. We were open to both men and women from the beginning, those of all cultures, religions, and ethnicities from the beginning. And the university certainly, for many years, has embraced diversity and recognized it as a fundamental aspect of the university's mission, which enriches both the nature of inquiry and our connections to the city. There are many ways in which this is being manifest now. I just mentioned the University Community Service Center, where so many of our students are deeply engaged in working in various parts of the communities of the south side of Chicago. Medical Center, of course, is an extremely important resource to all the residents of the South Side, and the Urban Education Institute and the University of Chicago Charter Schools, I think, are a very salient example of how the nature of research and education at the university can be brought to bear on some of the most pressing problems of our times. Now, that said, like all things of importance and all things of value, diversity requires constant attention. The minute one starts to feel successful and complacent is the minute you start getting worse at it, and we don't want to get worse at it. In fact, we want to get better at it. And so I just want to reiterate on, particularly on this day where we celebrate Dr. King, the ongoing importance that I pledge to everybody in this room that the university will continue to focus on these issues and continue to constantly improve our work and efforts in this direction. Now, with respect to that, in 2007, I appointed the Diversity Leadership Council, and this was, in fact, to further enhance these particular qualities and efforts of the university. The council is comprised of senior administrators from across the university, including academic divisions of professional schools, the medical center, and various administrative area. And the job of the council is that it should work to ensure our commitment to diversity is reflected in staff employment, contracts with local businesses, professional services, purchasing, and much more generally, the relationship with the surrounding neighborhoods and communities. So I feel that in its years of existence, the Diversity Leadership Council has in fact made great strides in these efforts. And I'd just like to recognize them and just ask that the members of this council wave your hands around so people can see who you are if you're around. So thank you. Now, in 2009, the Diversity Leadership Awards were established, one for a university staff member and one for a university alum. And these awards are made in conjunction with our celebration of the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And we do this, of course, to acknowledge staff and alumni whose work has embodied Dr. King's values and his commitment to equality of opportunity and freedom to all. So with those probably, I wouldn't say extensive because they don't do the subject justice, but with those introductory remarks done, let's now turn to the awards themselves. So our first award is the Diversity Leadership Staff Award. And with this award, we recognize a university staff member who displays leadership in fostering diversity both on campus and within the surrounding communities. And this year's winner is Shayne Evans. And Shayne, as I believe all of you know, is the managing director of the University of Chicago Urban Education Institute and the director of the University of Chicago Charter School. Shayne exemplifies the qualities of a true leader who has dedicated himself to quality education for children on Chicago's South Side. Through his work, he's helped redefine urban education within this community and increasingly on a national level, and illustrates what it means to give back to a community. Raised on the South Side by a single mother, he's faced and overcome personal challenges, excelling in high school and college. He's dedicated himself to ensuring that Chicago's urban youth achieve the same level of success that he has in high school and college and beyond. Shayne's career has included work in public, charter, and Jewish day schools across Chicago. At the Urban Education Institute, he's advanced from teacher to teacher leader to school director and now director of all 4 campuses of the University of Chicago Charter School. In these roles, he's maintained high expectations for his students, has encouraged curricular innovations from his colleagues, and has drawn on the great strengths of this community to help students succeed. He's worked with police, parents, and community organizers to make the neighborhood a safer place, creating a space for learning. He's forged an innovative partnership with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, whose principal cellist, Yo-Yo Ma, principal visiting cellist, is personally and regularly engaged in University of Chicago charter school life. And he has created models for college preparatory curriculum that have been adopted increasingly by schools across the country. Now, one of the best measures of the transformative difference that Shayne has made is that the first graduating class from the University of Chicago Charter School's Woodlawn campus, the high school campus, saw 98% of its seniors accepted to four-year colleges and universities. And this is compared to the district average of 19%. Those same graduating seniors earned together $1.7 million in scholarship support. Shayne's ambitious and tireless support of quality education for our area's lower income children has set the standard for education in Chicago and across the country, and we're honored to work with him. So Shayne, would you please join me at the podium? Yeah.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Shayne Evans, and I'm the director of the University of Chicago Charter School, and I'm also the campus director of the University of Chicago Charter School Woodlawn campus. I'd like to start this afternoon with thanking President Zimmer for making this possible, for the Diversity Leadership Council for recognizing the importance of diversity. I'd like to thank the University of Chicago in general for being a powerhouse in education, but also for being a powerhouse on the South Side of Chicago, because the South Side matters. I'd like to recognize our colleagues at the Urban Education Institute, which includes our director and revolutionary, Dr. Tim Knowles. Members and leaders of the Urban Teacher Education Program, the UTEP program, are here in force this afternoon. Members of the Consortium on Chicago School Research, UChicago Impact, and of course, the University of Chicago Charter Schools, which we have 4 campuses on the South Side of Chicago. I'd like to thank my mom, who of course makes this possible. And so you hear often of parents who want to move to the suburbs to get better education for their children, right? Because they have better educational options. My mother had the enviable task of wanting to stay in Chicago on the South Side, having an interracial child, thinking that it was going to be important for me to understand my culture and heritage, with a father who might not have been as involved, who was not as involved as he should have been, and knew that it would be very important for me to be on the South Side and what that meant, and that kind of education. So without that happening, this wouldn't be possible. I'd like to thank my stepfather, who then joins us and takes me on, and you know, that's a tough task. And I'd like to thank my wife, Dr. Charles Nika Evans, who, if we talk about proving things possible, has one of the best stories that you're ever gonna hear, because actually her whole path is actually proven what's possible for all of our young people. And I think that's actually what we're here today to talk about. And I think that really the acknowledgement and thanks and praise for this, which is greatly appreciated, is actually deserved by our young people, our staff, our parents, our students, our teachers, our principals, because they are amazing people. What we talk about at the University of Chicago Charter School is what's possible. The Consortium on Chicago School Research is going to tell you that 2.5% of African American young males are going to graduate by the time they're 25. That's 1 out of 40. And every single time that I've had a chance to speak to people and I share that statistic, no one is up in arms, right? No one immediately leaves the room to say, we've got to do something about that right now. And so what that suggests to me is that maybe we think that that's okay, or that that's not outlandish, or that that's not disappointing. And so some of this then is that we are actually in the business of proving that that's ridiculous, that that number should be 97.5% going to college. So the work that happens at North Kim and Oakland Charter School with 84% of our students meeting or exceeding state standards, but 25% exceeding standards, outperforming the state, is what proves that's possible. With the Donahue Community School that we have on 37th and Cottage, we have a day where kids are coming to school from 7 to 6, and almost 75% of our students are involved in some sort of after-school or extended day program. So if kids weren't hungry to learn, why would they come on a Saturday? Donahue proves that. We have Carter G. Woodson Middle School, 6th to 8th grade. Almost 80% of those students are meeting or exceeding state standards, but 100% of those students, under the guidance of Jared Washington, are going to high schools of their choice. And then, of course, you have the University of Chicago Charter School Woodlawn, where 98% of our first graduating class, 96% of our second graduating class were accepted to four-year colleges or universities. That's still not good enough, however, because that's not all of the students that we started with. And if we truly believe that every young person has the potential to be supremely intelligent, then the challenge is for us to make sure that it's 100% of those that start with us that not only get accepted to get accepted to college, but graduate from college, period. I would be remiss if I didn't make sure to thank Chuck Lewis and Penny Sebring, who are members of our governing board, but who are also members of the University of Chicago Network. Margot Pritzker, who is the president of the University of Chicago Charter School Board and a great president of the governing board she has proven to be already. I'd be remiss if I didn't make sure to point out Dr. Brazier and the work that WCPC is doing in Woodlawn. And in closing, I guess I would end with the fact that all of this is possible, right? So I had a speech impediment when I started out. I am no smarter than any of the other young people that grew up on 75th and Exchange or 73rd and South Shore Drive or anywhere else. I might have had some opportunities. I might have had some great teachers. I might have had some great support from my mom and my stepfather. But if we don't believe that every single young person that we serve is able to do much better than anything that I've accomplished, and we have plenty of young people who do that every day, their stories are 1,000 times better than mine. So if we truly believe that our young people are going to do much more amazing things than anything that we can think about, then we will truly support diversity, leadership, and young people to change the statistics that we see in Chicago, most importantly the nation. It is possible. You might doubt it, but it is, and it's not because, trust me, it is not because of anything that I have accomplished. It's because of what our teachers accomplished. A parent who stopped me just now to mention that her daughter is now in college, who had some struggles early on, but is doing just so much better. A young lady who just got accepted to Georgetown University last year with the full Millennium Gates Scholarship, Shaisha Moore, who's a valedictorian at UCW, and a young lady by the name of Shayne Evans who started at NKO, who wanted to take an easier route, but somehow found a way to get a Posse Scholarship to Oberlin College, and now has a 3.2 there. It is possible. It is possible. In fact, it's probable. So we've all got to work a little bit harder to make it more probable. Thank you. Have a fantastic evening. Thank you, Bob.
That was great. Before the Diversity Leadership Alumni Award, I just want to mention two other people who are here. First, State Senator Kwame Raoul, who is, where is Kwame? There's Kwame. And President of the Chicago Urban League, Andrea Zopp. Where is Andrea? Now, our 2012 Diversity Leadership Alumni Award winner is Sylvia Puente. A graduate of the University of Chicago Harris School of Public Policy, Sylvia found her direction at just 13 years old when she joined her mother on the picket lines of the United Farm Workers. Since then, she has dedicated her life to advocacy and activism in the Latino community. In Spanish, the word puente translates to bridge, and throughout her career, Sylvia has worked to build bridges between and among different communities. Her work with the Center for Metropolitan Chicago Initiative at the University of Notre Dame brought her to the table with many different people to create the conversations that would strengthen the Chicago Latino community. Since 2009, Sylvia has served as the executive director of the Latino Policy Forum, an independent think tank that researches the many public policy issues with an impact on Chicago's Latino community. She works with more than 100 leaders in the region to ensure quality education, accessible housing and immigration reform, as well as guidance and leadership for the Latino community. Thanks to her efforts, the forum is able to have a broader impact through the mainstream media, statewide leadership, and involvement on a national level with federal immigration policy reform. In addition to her work at the Latino Policy Forum, Sylvia co-founded the Chicago Foundation for Women's Latino Leadership Council, which raises thousands of dollars to support organizations that serve women and girls throughout the area. So Sylvia, would you please come up to the podium? Okay. Okay, here's my Sylvia.
Good evening. So I want to give thanks to my Creator for the gift that is being bestowed upon me this evening. Thank you, President Zimmer, the Diversity Leadership Council, and my dear friend Susan Zesch, who nominated me for this award. I also want to salute Shayne Evans, a man clearly of heart and vision for the future of all of our children. It's an honor to be able to share this with you today. So I want to thank my friends and colleagues who have honored me with their presence by taking time for their busy schedules to be here for this celebration. I want you to know that my ulterior motive in reaching out to all of you, those of you that work hand in hand with the Latino Policy Forum in advancing our agenda of equity and investment for the Latino community, is also to expand or initiate your relationship with the University of Chicago. We all know that this university has so much to offer, and it is my serious hope that the university's relationship with the Latino community can continue to be enriched. I am really pleased that my sister, Professor, I'm gonna embarrass her, Professor Teresa Puente, is here too. I haven't seen her in a while. She was in New York this past semester. And I am humbled, really, to be receiving this award as we celebrate the birthday of our nation's greatest civil rights leader, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. So I am blessed to have discerned that part of my life's calling is to be a puente. As President Zimmer said, for those of you that don't know, puente means bridge. So it's not just in my name, it's in my DNA and in my genetics. And I would like to think, but it took me a while to figure it out. And I would like to think that I'm offering new bridges and forging stronger ones between the Latino community and the rest of society. So I originally got into this work because I was angry at the inequality and the injustice that we have all seen, which is still so prevalent in today's world. I had seared into my soul a refrain that my father heard and lived in Texas, and that was, no Mexicans and no dogs allowed. This refrain is reinforced in so many ways, and while we know that Dr. King's legacy is alive and well, his mission of achieving social justice has not yet been attained for too many who reside in our world, in this great nation, and in this great city. So a dear friend shared a story with me the other day, and it's really heartbreaking, about a friend of his who married a woman that he obviously loved. He was not Latino, but his wife is undocumented, as are her children. Unfortunately, her high school-age daughter, I'll call her Juanita, was deported to Mexico, a country she left when she was 2. Juanita was distraught, living in a country that she did not know and feeling hopeless about her future. About a month ago, she committed suicide. Her mother went to bury her, and now she is not able to come back into the United States. So her husband is here, she is there, they are struggling to figure out their future. So this tragedy is all the more tragic because the August 18th, 2011 decision of the federal government would have deemed young people in Juanita's circumstance a low-risk priority and taken them out of the queue for deportation. She should have never been deported. Another decision of just last Friday would now allow Juanita's mother to regularize her status by remaining in the United States versus the uncertain future that she now faces of being barred for up to 10 years. So this is really an example of the injustice and the tragedy of our failed immigration policy and the politics that is now being played with it with these 2 recent decisions. We have allowed for the globalization of goods and services of people, but we have allowed for the globalization of goods and services, but have forgotten the impact that this has on people. And I have now come to realize that this really is a worldwide issue, a global issue of people from the southern hemispheres all over the world moving north, from Mexico and Latin America to the United States, from Morocco to Spain, from Asia to the United Kingdom. I was really fortunate to have the opportunity to have a fellowship to learn about immigration in these other countries. And one of my biggest takeaways really is that we all have a shared humanity. As human beings on this shared planet, we all want the same thing. And we will go to our extraordinary lengths, leave the countries of our ancestors, and leave the lives that we know to relieve starvation, to get food in our belly, flee war to obtain safety, have a roof over our heads, to have a job that provides an economic foundation, to provide educational opportunities for our children, and to dream of a better life. And as I reflect on my own journey, I like to think these days that I'm past the anger. I like to think that I can come from that place of love, that my message is one of promoting understanding of the assets that the Latino community brings to society, and a broader understanding of our mutual interdependence. I am pleased that these assets have recently been quantified by my former colleagues at the Institute for Latinos at the University of Notre Dame. And in a recent study that was just released last November, they quantified that Latinos contribute $1.2 billion more in tax revenue to the Chicagoland region than they cost in the delivery of public services like education, healthcare, and public safety. As our population continues to grow, as 90% of our children are citizens, as 3 out of 5 new entrants into the labor force are Latino, as Latinos continue to purchase nearly half of all the new homes in the Latino community, we will surmount our challenges by continuing to contribute to this great state and region. I believe that to obtain justice in immigration, to close the gap in our education system, to ensure that people have a roof over their heads, to eliminate tragedies like those of Juanita's and her mother's, clearly, how do we answer these? And there are no simple answers. But I do believe that the answer is in treating all those we encounter with respect. And I'll say, I think about this often every time I've listened to one of the Republican debates lately. I believe that the answer is an understanding that we have a shared humanity with shared goals and yearnings. I believe that the answer is in knowing that there are more than enough resources on this planet to eradicate poverty and to ensure that all can eat. I sincerely believe that only by sharing and acting, because the Latino Policy Forum, more than a think tank, is an organization of action and advocacy, is that by sharing and acting on a message of our commonality and our unity, will we be able to overcome that which divides us. So I am blessed to do my small part in sharing that message and articulating a future for our shared humanity. Echoing the words of Dr. King, I humbly say that we are bound together in a single garment of destiny, and that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Thank you.
Beautiful. Very beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Sylvia, and thank you all for coming this afternoon. Shayne and Sylvia, of course, demonstrate the great progress that is taking place in many ways at the university and in our community, and both of them are indeed inspirations to all of us. Before concluding, I want to welcome Dr. Geoffrey Canada, who is President and CEO of the Harlem Children's Zone, who will be speaking at Rockefeller Chapel at 6 o'clock this evening as part of the university's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. And I just want to emphasize both, Shayne, of course, talked about educating our children. Sylvia talked about it. Geoffrey Canada has been one of the most important leaders in the United States around this issue, and I do want to say what many of you have heard me say before, that in a country and in a world that confronts so many problems, so many numerous problems, that there really is no problem that is more important to solve than this issue of how to educate the young people of this country, every one of them. So I'm delighted with that we've been able to make these awards to Shayne and Sylvia, and I couldn't be more delighted to have Dr. Canada here with us, and I couldn't be more delighted than to see you all here. So enjoy yourself, and I hope we see you at Rockefeller Chapel. Thank you.